After diving into the tape, I can confidently say to you that the Cleveland Browns are a bad football team with a lot of really good players. And that's the only way to really describe them. This was a complete failure from the coaching staff trickling down through the roster. No, Deshaun Watson as a whole was not good. He was actually much worse than I originally thought, and it makes me very ashamed to have believed that he could have passed for 300 yards. I mean, realistically, he could have, but he missed a lot of open throws yet again. He was not processing the game fast enough, and he did have some good moments here and there, particularly when he was scrambling later on in the game, but it was too little too late, and the defense didn't show up until the third quarter. To me, this performance boils down to one thing: a lack of emphasis and focus on the fundamentals. This was a complete team loss. So let's start with the offense. An offense is like a car with a manual transmission. You can't get straight into fifth gear. You've got to add a little gas and work your way up from 1 to 5. Sure, when you get great field positioning because a bounce goes your way on a fumbled kickoff return, and you have one-on-one coverage with a great route runner in Amari Cooper, you can take your shot right there. Unload it, let it go. Use that launch control and jump out to a fast start and a good lead. But that success that you experienced in that moment was not because you eased in and created a rhythm. It was just the right time and right place because a bounce went your way. This team regularly talks about respecting their opponents, but they didn't enter this game respecting the Giants. Outside of all the word salad that gets said in press conferences, they did not come in respecting the Giants. They thought they'd be able to get a nice tune-up game to be able to push around the Giants' front seven so they could start establishing the run in ways that they haven't been able to throughout the year. They thought that they'd be able to just drop Deshaun back and that the Giants wouldn't be sending pressure because they hadn't done it up to this point in the year. The Browns did nothing to slow down the Giants' pass rush and blitz packages. And when you pair that with the first half defensive performance, there is no wonder why they were getting slapped around. As I mentioned, you cannot put this loss on any one player because the team as a whole was playing very, very poorly. However, Deshaun Watson had another game where you are left scratching your head as to what he is seeing and doing on the football field. He got back to his week 1 trait of locking in on one guy and becoming totally blind to the rest of the concepts against favorable matchups that were happening on the field. He was staring down checkdowns. Watch this play as he stares down Jerome Ford when pre-snap he knew he had 2 quick outs at the bottom of the field. Maybe because at this point he was getting hit so much that he just wanted to create a positive play on first down, but this is becoming a common occurrence and not an anomaly. Then there are other moments where he was just flat out missing throws. These got progressively worse through the first half and peaked in the third quarter. He sailed a ball over Jerry Jeudy's head out of bounds, sailed a ball over Elijah Moore, which would have been a touchdown down the seam. Then the next play sailed a ball over Amari Cooper's head on a crossing route that would have created a first down. There's really no justification that any Watson fanboy can make. It's just bad football. It's regardless of who is back there, it is just bad quarterback play. A lot of this failure to produce consistent offensive performances comes down to identity and philosophy. One thing that drives me crazy watching this offense is that almost every route concept is vertical. It's a lot of deep curls, comebacks, seams, return routes. When Watson was in Houston, he was known for stretching the field deep. He had guys like Will Fuller who were blowing up secondaries constantly because of his pure speed and Watson's ability to stretch the ball downfield. And this has been the shift that we've seen in the offense this season with a lot more empty shotgun sets. They're trying to recreate the environment that Watson thrived in in Houston. They want to stretch the defense and open up possibilities for explosive plays. Here are the issues, though. He's not hitting these throws vertically downfield unless it's to Amari Cooper down the sideline, and the offensive line is not protecting consistently enough for Watson to feel comfortable to be able to hit these throws. Additionally, when he does get the time and the receivers win on these routes, he is not getting the ball out soon enough. He's completely apprehensive and not anticipating the breaks from the receivers. What I am about to say is not in defense of Baker Mayfield or Joe Flacco or any Browns quarterback not named Deshaun Watson. But this team has been at its best when they've been able to move the pocket and when there have been route concepts that break across the center of the quarterback's vision. It makes defenses have to chase fast athletes across the field, and it makes it so defensive backs can't just squat and drive. People want to talk about the Browns receivers can't create separation. A lot of that is because they run the same 3 routes over and over and over and over. In 2020, the Browns had a very clear identity. They were going to maul the guys in front of them, hand the ball off to their 2 Pro Bowl level running backs, and then use play action to move the pocket, slow down the pass rush, and hit their shots as they open up. Somewhere along the line, this became an indictment on an offense and a quarterback. People viewed it as gimmicky to have to use a lot of window dressing and scheme to be able to get guys open and for a quarterback to hit his shots. But it worked, so why get away from it? Well, the whispers are that it was Deshaun Watson who wanted more of a drop-back game, more empty, more shotgun. But it is Kevin Stefanski's duty to identify and communicate the fact that Deshaun Watson cannot process full field concepts right now. The offensive line cannot protect long enough to be able to hit those shots. And he needs to get back to what has worked with every quarterback who has played within Stefanski's system. Right now, it is plain as day that Deshaun Watson is not the same guy. He could still have big days. He could still pass for 300 yards and a bunch of touchdowns. He could still be productive. He could win a lot of games, but this style of play is not conducive to the current realities that are plaguing the Browns offense. If you are sitting here right now and typing, but he got paid $230 million, he needs to be that. Guys, that isn't going to change it. The amount of money he's paid is not going to change anything. It doesn't matter what a guy's being paid. You have to coach to a player's strengths. You've got what you've got. You got to do it. You're not getting the money back. You have to do whatever you can to make this current player better than what he is, or you bench him. But to be completely fair with how the offensive line played, outside of the missed throws that were clear as day, Watson was doing things with his legs that Jameis Winston couldn't do. He got the Browns back into this game by using his legs and just being an athlete. And that is great. That is awesome. That is a lot of what the old Deshaun was, being an athletic playmaker when you get out of the pocket. But these are things that rookie quarterbacks do. These are things that rookie quarterbacks do to supplement the fact that they can't really win from the pocket currently. At the end of the day, there are much worse teams in terms of roster who are winning games because they can run the ball, they tackle well, they catch it when it comes their way. And even more than that, they're just disciplined and don't take horrible penalties week in and week out. And this, to me, is the bigger issue more than any one player or coach or the personnel in general. It is that this team does not do the basics well. In my point of view, discipline in the form of not taking stupid penalties is the fundamentals. That is one of the key areas that you have to know from the first day you step on the football field. What are the rules? What are the confines of the rules? How do we stay within them? So far through 3 weeks, Cleveland has taken the second most penalties in the entire league. That includes 16 pre-snap penalties. The Browns have this idea of themselves that they're better than they really are, that they can take plays off, jump off sides, line up the wrong way, and they'll still win because they're talented. Newsflash, if they were that talented of a team, they would be winning these games regardless of the penalties they were taking, but they're not. So what does that tell us? It tells us that they can't afford to play sloppy, undisciplined football. And this, to me, is a standard that the coaching staff is not upholding. Not only is this team undisciplined, but they struggle to do the most basic aspects of football. Let's talk about blocking. The Browns' offensive line has regressed immensely. Maybe it's the Callahan departure. Maybe it's something else within the personnel and injuries and aging. I'm not sure, but this team cannot pick up twists. They cannot pick up stunts. They can't pick up the blitz. They can't push the pile in short yardage. They can't create running lanes for their running back, who needs a wide open hole to be able to read the fact that it's open and he needs to hit it fast. They're near the top of the league in pressures allowed. I understand part of that is on Watson, but if you watch this film and say that it's Watson holding on to the ball, then you are absolutely blind. You are lying to yourself if you think this offensive line has played a single good game this season. And now the issue is going to be compounded by the fact that Wyatt Teller is injured for a minimum of 4 weeks, and now with Jed Wills' injury. But Jed Wills is so terrible and has such a poor level of effort every single week. I would rather have Batonio playing left tackle. All right, now how about catching the ball? I'd say that catching the ball is a pretty damn important thing in the game of football. And where do the Browns rank? Well, number 1 in dropped passes. In every single game so far this season, there has been a bad drop by a receiver or a running back that has set this offense back and got them behind schedule and increased the pressure on Watson. Cleveland is not close to being reliable in the pass game, and it is not all because of Deshaun Watson, contrary to popular belief. The receivers have let him down many times. But the bigger problem is that it's just out of sync. When the line holds up, the throw is sailed. When the line holds up and the throw is delivered well, the receiver drops the ball. When the line holds up and the receivers win and they're wide open, Deshaun Watson doesn't see it. The issues of this receivers as a group, as a whole, needs to be studied deeper, and that's something that I'm going to dive into on Patreon in the coming weeks. But in general, this team, these receivers, they do not do the basics well enough, just like I said. Amari Cooper showed up and proved that he's still a dog. Without a doubt, he had a very big day and a huge bounce back from a lackluster first 2 weeks, but I still think he has a lot more to offer in general. At the end of the day, though, he was saving Watson. He was making extremely difficult catches all day. Watson was delivering balls that very few receivers could make catches on. Coop was making them, so outstanding effort by him. The rest of the team needs to follow in his footsteps, but in general, they are not good enough as a unit at their most basic trait, catching the ball. That is their job, and that is what sealed the fate of this team in this game. Cedric Tillman lining up. It was a very, very bad route, all things considered. He gave the defensive back nothing at the top of the route. He got his hands on him. He just tried to push the sled. But then Watson delivers a good ball, and what happens? They're out of sync. It hits him between the 1 and the 9, and he drops it. They lose the game. It shouldn't have come down to that. They should have been playing better in general, but it goes to show when you can't do the basics and you can't do them in the most high tension moments, you're going to lose games. Now, how about tackling? Unfortunately for this metric, I couldn't find any total team stats for tackling and missed tackles, but it is plain as day. When you watch this team play, they are horrid at open field tackling. Sometimes they make great plays. There's a few guys who do it week in and week out. I think Jordan Hicks and Grant Delpit, but the rest of the guys, even JOK, not good enough at open field tackling. The quality of tackling almost everywhere on this defense is extremely poor. You constantly see guys drop their head, and then if they do get to the ball carrier, they wrap them up and they let their legs die and they get dragged for extra yardage. This team, they will go in, they grab on it, and they get taken for a ride. JOK does it, Greg Newsome does it, Martin Emerson does it. It is horrible. It is horrible. And that is something that should be noticed and that they make a priority in practice to address. This next piece goes back to the bigger issue. They got the dogs. They got the guys. They have the extremely talented players, but they are not performing on a consistent basis. JOK will get a TFL, and he blows a play up. He does such a good job. He is such a spark plug for the defense. But then the very next play, he has a chance for a TFL on a swing pass to pin them inside their own 5-yard line and give them an extremely improbable 3rd and long. That maybe could have even resulted in a safety if you get a better pass rush, because now the quarterback can't get the ball out quickly. They have to try and do something beyond the sticks to get the first down. Instead, JOK goes in, drops his head, Singletary makes a move, they get the ball within 2 yards of the first down marker. Then, the very next play, Greg Newsome gives an enormous pocket of space. Then he closes in too slowly and makes a diving attempt, misses the tackle, and they get the first down. And this drive resulted in a touchdown. This is on the coaching staff. They have to do everything in their power to make this defense more consistent in open field tackling, because you gave the Giants so many opportunities on 3rd down, 4th down conversions to just make plays in their playmakers' hands. They weren't doing anything crazy. They were getting the ball out quick and they were making the first guy miss. And that cannot happen. Tackling is a technique that can be learned by anyone. Some people are naturally better, but the fact is, anyone can become a good tackler if it is drilled every single day. There's a Muhammad Ali quote that perfectly illustrates the issues that this team is facing on offense, on defense. It isn't the mountains ahead that wear you out. It's the pebble in your shoe. Stefanski and the Browns are only looking ahead to the mountaintop that they have to scale to build on the run that they put together last season. And they are focusing on the external factors that lay ahead rather than the internal ones that they can address immediately. I don't know if that's because of hubris. I don't know if that's because they feel they're too good already to waste time focusing on the fundamentals because they have Pro Bowl players and future Hall of Famers scattered around their roster. But you cannot outplay bad fundamentals and bad discipline. I don't care who you are. It is not the opposing teams or the injuries or the off-field drama. It is the internal issues every day at practice where they are not addressing their flaws. They have to identify what isn't working and make a shift. If that means benching players, you bench them. If that means changing your offensive scheme, you change it. If it means more padded practices to help the blocking and the tackling on this team, you do it. You don't go, oh, well, we don't want to get injured. It doesn't matter. You're going to get guys injured because they aren't prepared, because they aren't blocking for your quarterback and your running back, because they miss tackles constantly. Football is a simple game. X's and O's can be dialed up to a point where it seems like astrophysics. But at the end of the day, you have to block, you have to tackle, you have to be able to run the ball, and you have to stay disciplined. You cannot outplay being bad in those areas, but you can win with lesser talent if you are great in those areas. Everyone wanted to clown on the Steelers coming into the season and Justin Fields and whoa, this and that. You know what? They're 3-0 because they play good, disciplined, fundamentally sound football. And the Cleveland front office and coaching staff, they like to be brainiacs too often. Cleveland does not have an identity right now. And they are simply a bad football team with a lot of really good players. And the hardest aspect of trying to analyze this is that there isn't one answer to fixing things. It's hard to pin it all on the quarterback because the offensive line isn't blocking well and the receivers have been dropping balls. It's hard to pin it on the coach because the quarterback is missing the open throws that are there. And it's hard to pin it on the defense because the offense can't score. The good news is that you could turn it around this week. You could save your season, you'd be 2-2, you'd be middle of the pack in your division. The bad news is that the turnaround has to happen this week. There is no more time to waste. And I don't subscribe to the idea that September games are must-win football. You want to be playing your best football in December and January. But the Browns' schedule is about to get a lot harder. And the only games where you might be favored in are coming up in Las Vegas and Washington. And after the Washington's performance on Monday Night Football in Cincinnati, they're probably going to be the underdogs against the Commanders. In the next 2 weeks, if the Browns play undisciplined football, if the offense can't score at least 20 points, and if they lose, there are going to be a ton of whispers about changes maybe to the quarterback, changes maybe to the coach. And we'll have to discuss that more. If you want to see more content like that, the spicier stuff that's a bit more divisive, you're going to have to check out Patreon. We'll do our live streams and recaps on here, but if you want to support the page, head over there. Over the next 2 weeks, I'm going to be putting a ton of stuff out on Amari Cooper, the receivers, the top stars from each game, because we do need to highlight the positives. For this week, we're going to be talking about Grant Delpit, Jordan Hicks, and Amari Cooper. So hop on and check that out. But for the time being, the path forward is simple. Stop trying to be the things that you are not. Address your weaknesses and improve. Get a grasp on your fundamentals and everything will start to get better. Then you can clearly identify what the weak link is, because right now it's the team as a whole. This is a very big week for Kevin Stefanski and the Cleveland Browns. Thank you guys so much for watching. Like I said, join the Patreon. You can do it for free. Give a free trial. If you like it, you can help support the page. Join us for our live stream on Wednesday night. We will see you in the next one.